Hi, my name is Joel Ong, and I'm an associate professor in computational arts at York University in Toronto.
And I'm 𝗙𝗏𝗿𝗏. I'm a media artist and educator.
Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which our work at York University, Toronto, Canada, is conducted that precede the establishment of York University. We acknowledge our presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as 𝗙𝗏𝗿𝗏𝗏 has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis. It is now home to many Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. In addition, we would like to acknowledge that Indigenous settlements have thrived and occupied the Black Creek area, a tributary of the Humber River, in a place that is now known as Jane-Finch. And we recognize as uninvited guests it is our responsibility to support efforts for reconciliation, to acknowledge and amplify the historical presences, but also to learn from Indigenous models of environmental stewardship and community care.
Today, we'll be discussing and presenting our research creation project, Firgrove Forever, a web-based virtual environment created in collaboration with community artists and leaders. This was part of a larger project entitled the Firgrove Mixed Media Oral Narratives Project, a physical and virtual archive of the artistic and creative energies of the youth of the Firgrove community in the Jane-Finch neighborhood of Toronto.
Named after the intersection of Jane Street and Finch Avenue West in northwest Toronto, Canada, the Jane-Finch neighborhood is one of the largest, most diverse neighborhoods in the city. As noted by community advocate and historian, our good friend Wanda McNevin, the neighborhood was developed as an instant city growing out of farmers' fields in the decades spanning 1961 to 71. Much of the growth during this time was facilitated by a government agency that developed low-income and public housing on the lands around Jane and Finch. The availability of affordable housing attracted tens of thousands of people composed mostly of a diverse range of new immigrants. However, while that housing was built very rapidly, in the decades that followed, the government failed to provide the social infrastructure needed to sustain the community. And so the community lacked the settlement, employment, and language services vital to new immigrants. Schools became overcrowded, community centers didn't appear for years, and public transportation was never better than sporadic. Furthermore, the shifting demographics of the neighborhood, from one that was dominated by people of a European background to one that was composed of a mosaic of people from Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin America, resulted in growing racial tensions. As a result of these factors, the neighborhood became known for its high levels of poverty and prevalence of gangs, drugs, and criminal activity. However, as noted in the community-led report about the Jane-Finch neighborhood, I quote, "Jane-Finch has more to offer than the negative stereotypes about it presume. In recent years, the community has been characterized by a high level of civic engagement, witnessed by its numerous community organizations, high levels of activism, and arts programs. However, it has also traditionally been propagated as one that has been marked by negative racialized stereotypes. Issues of poverty and racism are unquestionably a part of everyday life for members of the community. There is a huge capacity for change in the neighborhood, but there is a shortage of resources to facilitate these changes. This is a community where economic opportunities and social services have not developed in pace with need, and the effects have been extremely detrimental for the people who call Jane-Finch home." End quotes.
A space within the Jane-Finch community, Firgrove shares similar challenges as other social housing projects in fighting negative media portrayals that situate them as hubs for crime, drugs, and social issues. Affectionately known as Connections, the social housing community of Firgrove boasts rich cultural diversity and an unbiased, caring spirit. In 2014, it was identified as one of 31 Toronto neighborhoods to be designated as a Neighbourhood Improvement Area, areas that need additional investment to combat specific problems such as higher than average crime or a shortage of services. And it initiated a revitalization process to redevelop aging community housing in the area. The revitalization process has resulted in a progressive displacement of community residents across the Greater Toronto Area.
The Firgrove community is geographically situated beside York University. And since 2017, we've been working collaboratively with a group from the Firgrove Learning and Innovation Community Center, I'll term it FLIC from now, led at that time by Lorraine Anderson. Affectionately referred to as the REC, FLIC is one of the many sites in Jane-Finch that take on challenges associated with a disproportionately high number of families with children under 16, including many single-parent families. Since 2008, FLIC has offered free after-school and summer programming for youth and young adults. It is also the site for community activity, hosting sewing circles, computer literacy classes, virtual learning, job programs, and food banks, and is a vital community hub for social connection and mentorship. Our collaboration with FLIC has resulted in a wide range of projects in digital literacy, creative coding, and other forms of support, such as grant writing and youth mentorship. Initially proposed as a program to bring creative coding to the youth in the community, our work grew into a series of more diverse content creation workshops based on the interests of the youth. In the following years, we hosted workshops in 360 photography, digital audio recording, avatar building, and virtual world construction, prioritizing the creative spirit of community members and the ways they could be empowered in this increasingly digital world. In our early workshops, participants cataloged areas of interest and captured memories of spaces of value in the neighborhood, catalyzed by the rapid changes in the neighborhood, most notably the results of this revitalization process, which entailed the demolition of community housing units across Firgrove and the relocation of hundreds of residents. In February 2020, a disastrous fire destroyed the wreck, taking with it 12 years of memories and removing a vital part of the community that was already experiencing rapid change. After the fire, we realized that the digital archives from our workshops were some of the only remaining media recordings of the community produced by the residents. In light of these events, the immersive visuals and audio produced in some of these workshops gain a poignancy, as they were among some of the last memories of these spaces so valued by the community residents.
With this experience in mind, we decided to make the creation of an immersive virtual environment the central focus of this project, and to use it as a platform to amplify the stories and memories of the neighborhood. Entitled the Firgrove Immersive Media Oral Narratives Project, this virtual environment consists of bubbles of 360-degree panoramic photographs and audio of interviews conducted through summer school programs between 2020 and 2022, as well as interview clips with residents positioned around a virtual recreation of the Firgrove neighborhood.
Their neighbors and other community members.
Can I ask you, what is community all about? What makes this work? What has made this community work?
I think it was just love, to be very honest. Like, everybody is so open and accepting of anyone, and that is basically what made our community. Everybody just kind of loved everybody, Yeah.
How about you?
I agree. I totally agree. When I say, oftentimes we'll hear the quote, it takes a village, right? And I believe so strongly in that because I've seen that demonstrated here. I lived here for 19 years. And even when we look to some of, the older women who live in our community, they're like mothers to us.
The project is hosted on Mozilla Hubs, a web-based platform that allows users to create immersive virtual environments that can be accessed through a web browser. As a web-based immersive environment, this project can be accessed by anyone with an internet connection and affords the ability to allow multiple users to explore the project simultaneously. The environment itself is a virtual recreation of the Firgrove neighborhood as it existed in 2019. It was created using a photogrammetry workflow featuring Google Earth images of the neighborhood taken prior to the demolition of the buildings. As such, this project exists as a sort of memorial to the community and a living archive that could be potentially updated with community-created content.
In spring 2023, we had the opportunity to launch the Firgrove Forever exhibition held at the Gales Gallery at York University on occasion of Congress 2023. A major academic conference that was attended by thousands of delegates and community partners. Within the theme of reckonings and reimagining, the exhibition sought to build on the collaborative relationships we had with FLIC and support some reimagining of the future together. The exhibition was one in a series of homecoming events for displaced residents to revisit friends and view artifacts from the old community. It featured items collected from residents and salvage items from buildings that had been demolished, including road signs, sewing machines, posters, etc. It also featured new works created by community youth in a series of STEM-based workshops led by 𝗙𝗏 and 𝗙𝗃𝗏, where workshop participants created light boxes modeled after 𝗙𝘃𝗏𝗄𝗏 infinity rooms. We also installed the Towards a Higher Journey, or TAJ mural, a mural commemorating the lives of several youth in the community that was previously installed on the site of FLIC. In this way, the gallery became a safe space for both community and institutional partners to congregate, celebrate, share, reminisce, and even mourn. The Firgrove Forever exhibition was a milestone exhibition in the celebration of the artistry and creative energies of youth in Jane-Finch and this collaboration between them and our institutional partners. The project touched upon several areas of ongoing research at York University, most prominently programs to support digital literacy during the pandemic, and research in the strategies of community-centered co-creation models using emerging technologies and paradigms in youth participatory action research.
As part of the Firgrove Forever exhibition, we assembled a working group comprised of community artists and leaders such as 𝗙𝗏𝗏 and 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏. We collaborated with each member to design and create a virtual room in Mozilla hubs, each based on their creative inclinations and inspirations. These virtual rooms hosted a wide range of media, from video footage, photography, 3D modeling, and motion capture. The collection of these rooms was entitled Firgrove Reimagined, and it was presented as part of the exhibition on a VR headset mounted within the gallery space. This is Stephanie Lucas's space, entitled Home. Stephanie's space is a virtual gallery of images and areas around Firgrove, done as an homage to the spaces and architecture of the Grassways, including 17 Cane Grassways, a block in Connections where many artists used to live. This is 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's space. Artist, songwriter, performer, and performance coach, Nathan's room reflects the various creative outputs of this entrepreneur and community activator. A tireless advocate for the youth of Jane and Finch, Nathan is the ED of Jane Street Speaks, an open mic platform for Black youth to showcase local artists who didn't have accessible or affordable venue spaces. His virtual rooms feature his music, clothing label, and a virtual stage from which future live performances can be streamed. This is Christine Lee's space. Christine's room features the launch of the Jane-Finch Eats project. Beginning in the iconic food court of the Yorkgate Mall, see videos of Christine as she travels through Jane-Finch, visiting local hotspots such as 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's Roti and Doubles on Jane Street and Tasty Pizza and More in 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Village on Hallmar Drive, tasting the food and speaking to the owners about their journeys, food, and thoughts about the neighborhood. This project will continue beyond the scope of this exhibition. This is Tiffany Ford's space. Tiffany's room begins in the stairwell of 5 Needle Firway, an iconic building in the Firgrove neighborhood. Each of the rooms on the 5 floors provides a glimpse into her illustrious career and the ways she has fought to support and change the perceptions of this neighborhood as an entrepreneur, former politician, and current executive director of the youth center, Peach. This is 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's space. Drawing inspiration from Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and Nina Simone's song Blackbird, 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's virtual space embodies the essence of the blackbird as the timeless archetype of the hero with 1,000 faces. Beginning in a virtual recreation of her home in Lawrence Heights, her room serves as a potent vessel, amplifying the voices and aspirations of the Lawrence Heights community, allowing space for the viewer's imagination to take flight, providing a sanctuary for the preservation of the rich heritage and sense of unity among residents. This is Terrell Knox's space. Terrell's epic room looks like a giant warehouse turned into a gallery. On the main floor is a big model of the Firgrove buildings that can be picked up and placed on a map. Visitors can go up to the catwalk and take a picture and leave it in the room, allowing all to be part of the reimagining process and to value each and every creative input. The map is created from Toronto Community Housing revitalization plans for the Firgrove neighborhood, featuring buildings that are color-coded to size and type. And lastly, this is 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's space. 𝗙𝗂𝗏, a spoken word poet from the Firgrove community, created a space to reimagine and reperform her spoken word piece, The Projects. It employs motion capture technology to apply a performance of this piece to an avatar she created.
Hopes are abandoned, the earth beneath it, shaken by the plow, watered by the opinions of the years that chair the round tables, yet these seeds fail to flourish. As autumn arrives a little too early, trees wave farewell, their colors a reminder that sometimes there is beauty in leaving. Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time for everything, a time to let go than to hold on and wait for things to change. Like seasons give reason to change. These leaves, their crunch the evidence of a malnourished suckling, void of summer's warm embrace, the cold consumed her baby. I guess her child didn't belong to destiny. In an attempt to offer empty promises, a game of ping pong, delivering no's and defending our yes, this push of agendas without deadlines, void of good intentions, there aren't masterminds behind mass genocides. Only cowards who serve the hungry pipe dreams as they feed the prison pipeline, the oppressed still sentenced to a lifetime of unmet requests, without enough tears in the heavens to lament over all this mess, the gardens dry up and great minds give up, resorting to the only way they know, a reflex called somebody told me so. Somehow they still gotta bring home the dough. Homer, they say it's safer to stay at home more in a house, but we're living homeless, homie. Some people feel more like home than a physical building. The opportunities resemble strangers. The passers-by on these sidewalks, brazen tongues talk. It's the same old thing, just a different day. And on one of those days, one of my brethren told me what it's like to hustle when you're from the hood. It's supposed to sound like, oh, I wish a brother would try me. They're trying to get it before they get got. They're trying to secure the bag before they get shot. The only thing left is a grave and a stolen Glock. These drive-bys become more like goodbyes. Then the red and blue lights show up. These cops sigh. Oh, it's just another young black boy from Jane-Finch. It's funny when they ask me where I'm from. Aren't you afraid to live there? Well, I've lived here 19 years and I'm still here, praying I'm never in the right place at the wrong time. I'm never in the wrong place. This is home, and it's where my heart is. I wish I didn't have to identify a firecracker from a gunshot or duck from windows when I heard them, nor hear the tales of little Black Riding Hoods hunted by wolves in blue clothing where boys forsake toys in exchange for a weapon, media's misrepresentation, modern-day Armageddon, analyses conducted. We need follow-up action, not another item checked off on a list of to-dos for another project that's well overdue in this ongoing fight for dignity, because they fail to see equity as necessary, nor acknowledge the disparities, the excuses to discriminate, yet we're left to advocate on behalf of our community, our body, gold mines blown with bombs, its fragments ricochet off the glass ceiling, voices invited to sing along in a process of decisions, before digging grounds to plant concrete visions, acknowledge the heritage sown into the fabric of this native land. Its soil has heard the unspoken words of history. We've heard their stories, told our stories, yet who will listen? We have spoken, yet who will listen?
Something that's really important for us in this project is the relationship building underlying any of the activities we do and any of the technologies we use, particularly in the ways that institutions may support and sustain communities in need. As academics in institutional roles, what are the conversations that need to be in place to continue support for our partners that may not align with institutional modes of evaluation, attribution, or accreditation of research and research creation methodologies?
This is an open question, and more importantly, a commitment to addressing this question. How might we, as researchers, engineers, artists, and academics, locate these gaps in support structures, whether financial or not, and disrupt the power imbalances that our institutions have over communities of precarious status? How can creative practices decenter institutional knowledge and produce care?
So we hope you've enjoyed our presentation of Firgrove Forever. Thank you so much for your attention.
If you have any other questions or want to work with us in the future, feel free to contact us. Bye.
That was awesome.
Yeah.